Night before I left town, I had a date with her. I got all worked up. She was so pretty and sweet and good. And I told her straight. I said, you better forget me, Evelyn, for your own sake. I'm no good and I never will be. Then I broke down and cried. And she just said, looking white and scared, why, Teddy, don't you still love me? And I said, love you? God, Evelyn, I love you more than anything in the world, and I always will. And she said, nothing matters, Teddy. Because nothing but death can stop my loving you. So when you're ready, you send for me, and we'll be married. And I know I can make you happy, Teddy. And when you're happy, you won't want to do any of those bad things you've done anymore. And I said, of course I won't, Evelyn. And I meant it. I believed it. I loved her so much she can make me believe anything.
You married her. You caught her cheating with the iceman, and you croaked her. And all we want is to pass out in peace with you.
So I beat it to the big town. I got a job easy. It was a cinch for me to make good. I had a knack. It was like a game, sizing people up quick, spotting what their pet pipe dreams were, and then kidding them along that line, pretending you believed what they wanted to believe about themselves. Then they liked you. They trusted you. They wanted to buy something to show their gratitude. It was fun. But still, all the while, I felt guilty. As though I shouldn't be having such a good time away from Evelyn. In each of my letters, I'd tell her how I missed her, but I'd warn her, too. I'd tell her about my faults, how I liked my booze every now and then, and so on. But you couldn't shake Evelyn's belief in me, or her dreams about the future. And after each one of her letters, I'd be as full of faith as she was. So when I got enough saved to start us off, I sent for her and we got married. Christ, wasn't I happy for a while. And wasn't she happy? I don't care what anybody says. I'll bet there were never two people that loved each other more than me and Evelyn. Not only then, but ever afterwards. In spite of everything I did. Well, it's all there to start. Everything that happened afterwards. Well, I never could learn to handle temptation. I'd want to reform and mean it. And I promise her, and I promise myself, and I believe it. I'd even tell her, it's the last time, Evelyn. And she'd say, I know it's the last time, Teddy. You'll never do it again. And that's what made it so hard. That's what made me feel like such a rotten skunk. Her always forgiving me. My playing around with women, for instance, it was just a harmless good time to me. It didn't mean anything, but I'd know what it meant to her. So I'd swear to myself, never again. But you know how it is traveling around, those damn hotel rooms. You get to seeing things in the wallpaper. I get so damn bored, so lonely and homesick. But at the same time, sick of home. I'd feel free. I want to celebrate a little. Well, I never drank on the job, so it had to be dames. Any tart. What I'd want was some tramp that I could be myself with without being ashamed. Someone I could tell a dirty joke to and she'd laugh.
Gee. All the lousy jokes I've had to listen to and pretend was funny.
Sometimes I'd try a joke that I thought was a real corker on Evelyn. And she'd always make herself laugh. But I could tell she thought it was dirty and not funny. And she always knew about the tarts that I'd been with when I came home from a trip. She'd kiss me and look in my eyes, and she'd know. And I could see in her eyes her not wanting to know. And telling herself, even if it is true, he can't help it. They tempt him. He's lonely. He hasn't got me. It's only his body. He doesn't love them. I'm the only one he loves. And she was right, too. I never loved anyone else. Couldn't if I wanted to. She forgave me even when it all had to come out in the open. And you know how it is when you keep taking chances. You may be lucky for a long time, but you get nicked in the end. I picked up a nail from some tart in Altoona.
Yeah, she picked it up from some guy. It's all in the game.
I had to do a lot of lying and stalling when I got home, but it didn't do any good. The quack I went to got all my dough. And he told me I was cured. And I believed him. But I wasn't. And poor Evelyn. But she did her best to make me believe that she fell for my lie about how traveling men get things from drinking cups on trains. Anyway, she forgave me. The same way she forgave me every time I show up after a periodical drunk. And you all knew what I looked like after one of those. You saw me. Like something lying in the gutter that no alley cat would lower himself to drag in. Something they threw out of the DT ward at Bellevue, along with the garbage. Something that should be dead. But isn't. Evelyn wouldn't have heard from me in a month or more. She'd been waiting there alone. The neighbors feeling sorry for her out loud and shaking their heads. That was until she got me to move to the outskirts, where there weren't any next-door neighbors. Then the door had opened, and I stumbled, looking like what I just said, into her home that she always kept so spotless and clean. And I swore it'd never happen again. And now I'd have to start swearing again that this was the last time. I could see disgust having a battle in her eyes with love, but love always won. She'd make herself kiss me, as though nothing had happened. As though I'd just come home from a business trip. She'd never complain or bawl me out. Christ, can you imagine what a guilty skunk she made me feel? If only once she admitted that her pipe dream about tomorrow and my behaving myself would never be any good. But she wouldn't. She was stubborn as hell. Once she set her mind on anything, you couldn't shake her faith that it had to come through tomorrow. Well, it was the same old story. Over and over for years and years. It kept piling up inside her and inside me. God, can you picture what I made her suffer? And all the guilt that she made me feel? And how I hated myself? If she only hadn't been so damn good. If she'd been the same kind of wife that I was a husband. God, sometimes I used to pray that she'd... I'd even say to her, go on, why don't you, Evelyn? Serve me right, I wouldn't mind, I'd forgive you. Of course, I'd pretend I was kidding. The same way I used to joke here about her being in the hay with the Iceman. She'd have felt so hurt if I said it seriously. She'd have thought I stopped loving her. Ah, I suppose you think I'm a liar. That no woman could have stood all she stood and still loved me so much. That it isn't human for a woman to be so pitying and forgiving. Well, I am not lying. And if you'd ever seen her, you'd realize that I wasn't. It was written all over her face. Sweetness, love, pity, forgiveness. Oh, but wait, I'll show you. I was carry your picture. No, I'm forgetting. I tore it up afterwards. I didn't need it anymore.
Jeez, Hickey, jeez.
I burned up Mother's picture, Larry. Her eyes kept following me around all the time. They seemed to be wishing I was dead.
It kept piling up, like I said. I got so I thought about it all the time. And I hated myself more and more, thinking of all the wrong I'd done to the sweetest woman in the world that loved me so much. It even got so I cursed myself for a lousy bastard every time I saw myself in the mirror. I felt such pity for her, it drove me crazy. You never believe it, would you, Larry? A guy like me that's knocked around so much could feel such pity. It got so every night I'd wind up hiding my face in her lap. bawling and begging for forgiveness. Of course, she'd always comfort me and say, "Never mind, Teddy. I know you won't ever again." Christ, I loved her so. But I began to hate that pipe dream. I began to think I was going bughouse because sometimes I couldn't forgive her for forgiving me. I even caught myself hating her for making me hate myself so much. You know, there's a limit to the guilt you can feel and the forgiveness and pity you can take. You have to begin blaming somebody else, too. It got so. Sometimes, when she kissed me, it was like she was doing it on purpose. To humiliate me. As if she spit in my face. Well, I saw how crazy and rotten that was of me. And I just hated myself more and more. You'd never believe that I could hate so much. Well, Larry, a good-natured, happy-go-lucky slob like me. And as the time got nearer when I was due to come here for my drunk around Harry's birthday, I got nearly crazy. I kept swearing to her every night that this time I really wouldn't, until I made it a real final test to myself and to her. And she kept encouraging me and saying, "I can see you really mean it now, Teddy. I know you'll conquer it this time, and we'll be so happy." And when she'd say that and kiss me, I'd believe it too. And then she'd go to bed. And I'd stay up because I couldn't sleep. And I didn't want to disturb her rolling and twisting around. I get so damn lonely. I get to thinking how peaceful it was here. Sitting around with the old gang, getting drunk and forgetting about love. Laughing and singing and joking and swapping lies. And finally, I knew I had to come. And I knew if I came this time, it would be the finish. Because I'd never have the guts to go back and be forgiven again. And that would break Evelyn's heart. Because to her, that would mean I didn't love her anymore. That last night, I'd driven myself crazy trying to figure a way out for her. I went into the bedroom. And I was going to tell her it was the end. But I couldn't do that to her. She was sound asleep. And I thought, God, if only she'd never wake up, she'd never know. And then it came to me. The one possible way out for her sake. I remembered I'd given her a gun for protection while I was away. It was in the bureau drawer. She'd never feel any pain. She'd never wake up from her dream. So I killed her.
I may as well confess, Larry. There's no use lying anymore. You know anyway. I didn't give a damn about the money. It was because I hated her.
And then I saw that I'd always known that was the only possible way to give her peace and free her from the misery of loving me. And I saw it meant peace for me, too, knowing she was at peace. I felt as though a ton of guilt was lifted off my mind. I remember I stood by the bed and suddenly I had a laugh. I couldn't help it. And I knew Evelyn would forgive me. I remember I heard myself speaking to her as though it was something that I'd always wanted to say. Well, you know what you can do with your pipe dream now. You damn bitch! No,
Yes. Yes, that's it. Her in the damn movement pipe.
No, that's a lie! Good God, I could have never said that! If I had, I'd have gone insane! Why, I loved Evelyn better than anything in life! Boys, you're my old pals. You've known old Hickey for years. You know that I can never... Harry! Harry, you've known me longer than anybody else. You know that I must have been insane, don't you, Governor? Oh,
Who the hell cares? Insane? You mean one's really insane?
Yes, sir. I couldn't have laughed. I couldn't have said that, sir.
Enough, Hickman. You know who we are. You're under arrest. Come along and spill your guts.
talk,
We
sir.
can get around.
You owe me a break. I phoned and made it easy for you, didn't I? Just a few minutes. Harry, you know I couldn't have said that to Ellen, don't you? Unless...
And you've been crazy ever since. Everything you said and done here.
Oh, Governor, up to your old tricks, eh? I see what you're driving at, but I can't... Yes, of course, Harry. I've been out of my mind ever since. Ever since I've been here. You saw I was insane, didn't you?
Can it? I've had enough of your act. Save it for the jury. Now listen, you guys, don't fall for his lies. He's starting to get foxy now and thinks he'll plead insanity. But he can't get away with that.
Jeez, you dumb dick. You got a crutch trying to tell us about Hickey. We've known him for years. And every one of us noticed he was nutty the minute he showed up here. If you'd seen the damn fool things he made us do. We only did them because we hoped he'd come out of it if we kidded him along and humor him. Ain't that right, fellas?
A fine bunch of rats. Covering up for a dirty, cold-blooded murder.
Is that so? But geez, you know the old story. When St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland, they swam to New York and joined the police force. You stand up for your rights, but geez, Hickey, I've still got friends at the hall. I'll have this guy back in uniform pounding the beat. Or the only graft he'll get will be stealing tin cans from the goats.
Listen, you cockeyed old bum, for a plug nickel, I'd... Come on, you.
Oh, I want to go, officer. I can hardly wait now. I should have phoned you from the house right afterwards. It was a waste of time coming here. I've got to explain to Evelyn, but I know she's forgiven me. She knows I was insane. You've got me all wrong, officer. I want to go to the chair.
Rat!
God, you're a dumb dick. Do you suppose I give a damn about life now? Why, you bonehead. I haven't got a single damn lying hope or pipe dream left.